Now, throughout this workshop, we're going to be going through some hands-on sections. And these sections can be found in our project under courses, workshop, and basics. And they're numbered, in this case, 1, 2, 3. And there we will find our instructions. Don't worry, though, I will show you later on when we get to those hands-on portions what this actually looks like. All right, so now that we have everything set up, let's go ahead and run through an introduction to GitLab itself. So to give you a bit of the background to the idea behind GitLab, around 15 years ago, we had so many different technologies for email, for understanding the weather, for music, for phone services. But they were all spread across all these different interfaces and devices. So for example, you had to have a Walkman to listen to your music. You might have a physical calendar hanging on your wall, and you might have a Nikon camera for photography. Then the smartphone came along, and all of this changed. It directly integrated everything into a single, intuitive, integrated device. Now, all of a sudden, you could make phone calls, take pictures, listen to music, or surf the internet through one single interface. Now, today's software delivery landscape is very similar to what we saw 15 years ago with the various different services. We can see the different functionalities one typically needs to have a fully functional DevSecOps lifecycle on the bottom here. And above, we can see common point solutions that are often used for these different stages. So we might have Jenkins for CI/CD, Sneak for security topics, or Jira solely for managing projects. Now, this often undermines transformation, as it requires a lot of additional support for creating and maintaining integration and orchestration. Measuring transformation also becomes difficult across all of these different tools. Collaboration becomes difficult, as there isn't a single platform to collaborate on, but requires switching between tools. And finally, it also increased costs and time spent with reps. And so this is where GitLab offers the solution. It's one platform that can help address the entire DevSecOps lifecycle from planning to deployment and beyond. So no need for additional integration and orchestration efforts. Simple and efficient collaboration in a single platform, and simplified application of security and compliance configurations across the entire lifecycle, and so much more. So with that, let's dive into the first focus point of our workshop today, project management within GitLab. So to start off, let's look at the 3 ways you can organize work within GitLab. First of all, you have groups. Groups allow you to manage subgroups and projects, and is a strategic layer for planning, governance, and management. Subgroups are similar. However, they're nested child groups for additional levels of orchestration. And finally, we have projects. And this is where teams actually collaborate, plan, work, etc., to deliver the application. So if we're looking, for example, at a retailer, our top-level group could represent the entire organization. The subgroup could represent individual teams, and projects could represent actual applications that these teams are working on. Now, we also have to define our work. Similarly, there are different ways to do this within GitLab. First, we have epics. An epics group thematically similar sub-epics and issues together. They're used for strategic initiatives across organizations, um, idea creation for a line of business, or a major product enhancement. Sub-epics represent smaller pieces of a larger epic, similar to what we saw with subgroups and groups. We have issues that describe smaller, discrete pieces of work, and they can be stories for building out new products and services, enhancing capabilities, or fixing existing defects for production systems. And finally, we have tasks. Tasks help us to break down the technical requirements of each issue into the smallest steps necessary to actually complete it. Now, we talked about organizing work, defining work. Now, let's take a look at how you can track work within GitLab. First thing, we have roadmaps. Roadmaps allow you to display epics that we just defined within a group on a timeline view. Iterations allow you to track issues that we've also previously defined over a period of time. However, for iterations, it's typically over a smaller period of time. So think of your typical sprint, for example, which might be 2 weeks. And we also have milestones. Milestones track issues over a period of time, as well as merge requests. However, they're rather used to track efforts over a longer period of time, for example, months. So for example, in this case, think of a milestone that could represent a brand new release within your product. So I know that was a lot of information. So here we can have a visualization of everything that we just discussed. On the left-hand side, we see all the organizational aspects here from groups, subgroups, and projects. Everything around defining our work from epics, issues within those epics, or sub-epics of those epics that themselves contain issues. And then finally, in terms of tracking, we can see here everything from roadmaps, milestones, iterations, and so on. So with that, let's get started with our first hands-on section. Now, ideally, all of you will be looking at a similar screen. Here we'll be in our Tanuki, in our test group, and we'll have our Tanuki racing project in here. If you're not already on the Tanuki racing project, go ahead and click on that. And what we'll do is we will take a look at the instructions first. And so you can find those by going to courses. Because we're doing a workshop today, we'll be looking at the workshops folder. And today we're doing the GitLab basics. So go ahead and click on the basics folder. And here we can see the different instructions. Because we just addressed project management, we'll go ahead and click on that. And we'll see these instructions here. Now, what I'll do is I will leave this open for you to go ahead and follow and give you about 5 minutes. So please go ahead, work through this. And after 5 minutes, I'll also run through this together with you to show you what this then would look like. Oh, thank you for letting me know that I was on mute. I'll go ahead and start over again. So yeah, I hope everyone was able to keep up with or get through the steps over here. Basically, all I did is I split the screen up here. So I have the instructions on the right-hand side, and I have the project that I'm going to be working on the left-hand side. We can go ahead and run through this together. So starting off with step one, creating an issue. So the first thing that we want to do is create an issue to outline the work that we're going to be doing. For this, we'll head over to the plan menu item and then go to issues. So I'll go over to my project, hover over the plan menu item, and then select the issues submenu item in here. Now we'll be redirected to the overview page for all of our issues. However, we don't have any issues in here yet. So what we'll do is we'll click the new issue button. Let's go ahead and do that. And now there are a couple of things that we can configure for this new issue. The first thing that we're going to do is set the title to be enable auto DevOps. Let's go ahead and copy that and paste that into the title up here. And the next thing that we're going to use is a GitLab AI feature. What this is going to do is generate an issue description. And so we'll go over to the description input field, and we're going to look for the little Tanuki icon up here. Now, I realize that for some people, this might not immediately show up. So if that's the case, on the bottom here, you'll see an option to toggle between rich text editing and plain text editing. So make sure that you click this to be plain text editing, and then you will see the icon pop up here. So if you do see that, go ahead and click on that and select the only option we have here, which is generate issue description. Now, we're going to put in a brief description of what we want our AI to fill in here. Luckily enough, I already have it populated in here. But what we're basically going to do is copy paste. We want to auto DevOps in this project. So go ahead, copy paste that in there, and then click the submit button. Now, sure enough, GitLab's AI features have created this description based on our input. If we click on preview, we can see exactly what that will look like. Now we have a couple of additional options in here. The first thing that we'll want to do is assign the issue to ourselves. There's a convenient little link over here, or button, assigned to me. We'll also change the weight of this issue to 3. We'll set the due date to 2 days from now. Let's see, 30th. Let's head over to February 1st. And we will leave the rest as is. Now with that, we can go ahead and click the Create Issue button. And we've created our issue, including our title, description, the assignee, weight, and due date, as we can see here. So with that, let's head over to step 2. Step 2 has to do with asking GitLab Duo. So GitLab Duo or basically more specifically, what we're looking at here is our GitLab Duo chatbot. And this can help us with various different topics. For example, what if we hadn't known where to find our issues? We wanted to learn more about issue customization options and so on. And now to access GitLab Duo chatbot, all we have to do is click on the help button, which is on the bottom left here. And all the way on the top, we see GitLab Duo chat. So go ahead and click on that. And that will open up the chatbot. And now from here, you can ask it a variety of different GitLab related questions. In our case, what we'll do is we'll ask, what features does GitLab have to help us while planning our work? And with that, GitLab Duo is going to find an answer for us and give us relevant information, share general answers, share links. I've also seen people ask questions around YAML definitions, so it can also help with that. But as we can see here, we can see the response saying there are several features that help us plan and track work, such as labels, iterations, milestones, requirements, tasks, time tracking, and so on, as well as shares the source of that answer. So now for the rest of this workshop, you can go ahead and use this chatbot to ask it any kind of questions that may come up. All right. Now, let's head back to project management topics within GitLab. And for that, I'll go ahead and close my chatbot in here. And we'll go to step 3, which is about tracking our work in our board. So we'll go over to the left-hand side and click on plans, and then click on issue boards in this case. And we'll go ahead and do that. So left-hand side to plan. And then we see issue boards. Now here we can see the column open. And sure enough, we can see that newly created issue in this column. Now let's say we would also want to add a in progress column in here as well, so that we can accurately track our progress from open, in progress, and close. Now, in order to do this, what we're going to do is create a label. Now for this, we'll head over to Manage and then go to the Labels submenu item. So head over to Manage, and then go to Labels. And on the top right, we see the button New Label. So let's go ahead and click on that. As mentioned, we want to add a column for in progress work items. So we'll go ahead and call this in progress. We can add a short description in here, for example, in progress issues. And we'll go ahead and give it a color. In this case, I will give it a nice yellow. And we can go ahead and create that label in here. Great. So now we've created this label, and now we can leverage this label to create a new column in our issue board. So we'll head back to our issue board by clicking on Plan and Issue Boards. From here, we'll add a new list or column in here by clicking the Create List button on the top right. We'll scope it towards a label, specifically our in progress label in here. And finally, we'll add it to our board. Now with that, we have everything from open, in progress, and closed. And once we move our issue between these, it will automatically assign that label in here, as we can see. And with that, we finished step 3. Let's finish this section off with step 4, which is creating a merge request. So what we'll want to do is go over to our enable auto DevOps issue. Easiest way to do this is just by clicking on the name in here. I'll minimize the right side here. And we can see here a variety of different things. We can see, activity related, all the different information that we added on the right-hand side here. And we can see the option to now create a merge request. So that allows us to really do all of the development needed in order to really address the topics within this issue. So what we're going to do is click the Create Merge Request button. And here we see a bunch of different options. I think we can go ahead and basically leave those empty for now and just go ahead and create that merge request. Now, at the moment, let's see here, I will go ahead and load this. All right, so we have our merge request in here. And what we will want to do is uncheck the mark as, oh, I have skipped over one step. Apologies. Should have added some steps in here, so please forget that. We're creating the merge request. Let me just head back here to our issue. There we go. All right. Okay. So apologies for that. We actually do need to assign a couple of things here. So we'll have this merge request page here. First thing that we'll want to do is uncheck the mark as draft option, which we can see up here. We'll go ahead and assign this to ourselves. And now we'll leave the rest of the configurations as they are and scroll down and click the Create Merge Request button down here. Awesome. So with that, now we've created a merge request, and this will be the center of our development in the next sections, where we'll go over topics like shift left, so that development mistakes are caught right at the merge request and not months later during security incidents. All right. So with that, I think it's about a good time to start a break. Before we jump into the break, though, let's just start one last poll to see how the pace is. How do you feel? Should Dominic, who will be taking over, maybe speed things up, slow things down, or is everything just right? So while you're answering that, I'll go ahead and give us 10-minute timer here. And so in 10 minutes, be sure to be back and we can continue on with the workshop.
All right. So I saw Ted pop up again, but I think the timer is completed, so that means that I'll be taking over from here. Thanks, Ted, for walking us through the first portion of the slides and the session. Did you want to say anything before we kick off with the next portion?
I actually did say quite a bit, but I realized that I was on mute. So yeah, with that, yeah, the timer's run up. Handing over to you, Dominic.
All right, thanks again. Um, yeah, those pesky mute buttons are, I have the same. I've got a really nice microphone on this side, and it has a physical mute button, but I also sometimes forget that I have a mute button in Zoom as well. So let me just share my screen because it's time to carry on with the next portion. All right, let me just make sure I've got everything in view. So I've got a very large screen as well, so I'm trying to figure out my screen real estate. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I hope everybody's back now and everybody's caught up with the merge request and ready to get into the next portion of this session. We will be talking about deploying with CI/CD. So, so far as obviously Ted has walked us through how to set up the environment for your labs, how to start using some of the project management capabilities within GitLab. And now we're going to go into the next lap of deploying with CI/CD. So let's start with going over some of the basic CI/CD concepts first. So in your job statements, you have three things. You have a script, a before script, and an after script. These are very important, especially when you have scripts that depend on each other. So script on its own is the only required keyword that a job needs. Without it, a job wouldn't have anything to do. The before and after scripts are optional. They pretty much do what they say on the tin. The before script runs before the script statement itself, but in the same shell. Its main purpose is to execute steps that are necessary in order for the script statement to run properly. And the after script runs after the script statement that are executed in a separate shell. The after script return code is not impacting the job success or failure. So to give you a couple of examples, you can use a before script to install the AWS CLI with this actual script and executing the CLI commands. Or when you create a job artifact, you might want to parse the results of the artifacts after after you're done. Or you can use an after script to run a cleanup job. All right, so within a pipeline, a job is only evaluated as a pass or fail based on the exit code of your regular script statement. Okay, so while GitLab CI/CD is incredibly rich, feature-rich, and powerful, sometimes you just want to get going quickly. You want to get going quickly without having to learn all that YAML first. For this reason, GitLab built something called Auto DevOps. You can simply switch it on. Auto DevOps will recognize the programming languages used in your source code, and when it detects a supported language, it will build your pipeline accordingly. So this allows you to get started with a pipeline that builds, tests, deploys, and monitors your application with minimal setup. So you can also use it as a foundation for which you can then customize. I think we'll be doing this in the lab shortly as well. A little bit about GitLab Runners. GitLab Runner is the application that makes running pipelines possible. So there are a bunch of different types you can use. They can be scoped on the project level, the group level, and shared across an entire GitLab instance. I'm just saying that somebody is not able to see my screen. Is that the other people are not also able to see? Can you see my
I
screen?
can I can see your screen, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, sorry. So on the topic of GitLab runners, maybe some of the QA team or something is able to share any links to the documentation to it, but pretty much for the purposes of this demonstration, for this workshop, you don't have to worry about it. There's a shared runner or there's some runner set up in a group that you have access to. Please bear in mind all of your fellow participants will all run from the same one, so it might take either another try or some time for your job to get picked up in the queue. So please just give it some time. All right, so that about GitLab runners. So if you wanted to know more about GitLab runners, we can provide you with some additional documentation. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the Kubernetes integration. While you can use GitLab to deploy your applications pretty much anywhere, from bare metal to VMs, GitLab is designed to be used with Kubernetes. GitLab is vendor agnostic, which means that we will not force you into a particular provider. But the Kubernetes integration allows you to leverage features like pull-based deployments. You can use our built-in container registry. You can have any sort of deployment strategy like canary deployments or anything else. The one thing that I really like is the review applications, where you can see the changes you make on your feature branches reflected in real time. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think we're going to do this in this particular workshop, but I've done an advanced CI/CD workshop where you can actually see the review application consist all of the changes that you've made, which is really good. And then, yeah, some additional monitoring capabilities to help you stay up to date and online. All right, so I think with that, it's now time to start with the second portion of the instructions. Let me have a look at where we are. So in Tanuki Racing, we wanted to go to our courses, and we are still in workshops and in basics, and we are now going to be on deploying with CI/CD. So I'm going to give you about, let's say, 6 minutes. So 10 minutes past the hour, I will get back and do it for you. But take your time to just do these steps on your own for now. So I'll be back with you in 10 minutes.
Kyle, just a reminder to please post your questions in the QA section and not chat or directly messaging us. We're getting quite a bit of direct messages, and it's hard to keep track of what's come in and what we've responded to so far.
All right. I will hope everybody had a chance to go through some of the content, but if you haven't, feel free to follow along right now while I'll be doing the steps for you so we can do this together. So if you haven't been able to caught up entirely, then now is the time to watch the screen. So as per the previous section, we now should have, let's go through some of the bits before we go into the content. We should have an issue board, and an outstanding merge request. So I am going to be swapping back and forth between, I basically have a 34-inch wide, ultra wide monitor. So if I share my whole screen, it will be difficult to see. So I will be swapping back and forth between tabs. Hopefully that's useful. I do also have another screen open on the side so you can see that, but I am going to show you what we already have. So I have an enable auto DevOps merge request open. Pipeline has immediately already kicked off. For those of you who haven't been able to see this before, whenever you create a merge request, it will start from a feature branch, or feature branch will be kicked off, including a pipeline. So that's the basis we're working from. So yeah, we have an issue, we've got a merge request, and now we're going to go in with the next portion. So let's go ahead and actually enable auto DevOps. So we want to go to the left-hand navigation and click through build and then pipeline editor. So go to build and then pipeline editor. And then you can see here that there's two stages. There is a pipeline defined, small one. You know, it's the only has like a build and a test stage, right? So we want to be using a template, and we want to make sure that we're not using the main branch. So we have the main branch over here, but we want to go to the branch that we've created from our merge request. So that will be enable auto DevOps. Let me just double check that. Merge request, go into the merge request itself. And you can see here, this is the branch name that is created based on the, upon merge request creation, this is the branch it created. So if we go back to our pipeline editor, we can now safely say we want to go into the enable auto DevOps pipeline. To answer your question, I saw somebody in the chat saying like, hey, I can't see the tree view. That will be this button over here. As soon as the validation is good, the configuration is validated, you'll have that back here. Okay, so let me just double check if I'm doing the same thing. We're not using the main branch. We're in the enable auto DevOps branch and making sure that we're making changes to the right place. So while this is being validated, let me just refresh the page. Maybe that helps. Yeah, so this is the tree view button that we were looking for. So at the moment, it's only including this particular file, but if you wanted to include more, you can. It gives you an actual pop-up saying like, hey, you can go here for more information. You can also ask GitLab Duo Chat if you wanted to do that. Okay, so in the top left corner, ensure the tree icon has been clicked so we can see a list of all of the included templates. We haven't actually included anything yet. This is just a YAML that's included so far, but we are going to add quite a few bits of extra stages. So we're just going to copy the whole thing in here. So we've got include template auto DevOps GitLab CI.YAML, and then it has all of these stages that's going to be included into it. So let me just go ahead and the current state configured text below. So we're replacing this bit over here. Let's just make it on here. Okay, so when I copied it in, you see automatically it will have a whole list of extra jobs or extra templates that it's going to use. Let me just make sure everything else is fine. I think this can now go. So just double checking here, Logan, in the text over here, it says, go ahead and replace the current stage config with the text below or add. I'm not sure if that's.
Yep, so to replace what's currently there with the include template in the stages.
Yeah, so what I've done here So this can go.
Yeah, I would just delete everything, honestly, and then copy and
Yeah.
paste it.
Okay. Just double checked. So this could go. Pop. All right. So somebody's saying that we're too fast. Too fast. Where are you at the moment, and what is going too fast at the minute? Right, so far we've only done the first or the second stage of the first step. So in the top left corner, we have the tree icon has been clicked, so you can see the list of the included templates. And this whole list that's in this box over here, you can click this button over here to copy the entire thing to the clipboard. And if we go into the pipeline editor, you can see this is these are all of the templates we've so far included in the auto DevOps template. And that is now all added over here. So that should be fine. Let me go have a look at what the rest of the thing is. We disabled the review app here because we're not fully deploying an application. So that is fine. If you wanted to learn more about the review application, you can click that link. So as I already showed you, the templates list view should have a number of deployment, security, and build templates added. You can click an individual template to see what is included, or click full configuration to get a full view of what our CI/CD really looks like once everything has been added. So let's do that. Let's go and have a look at the full configuration. So you can see that there's a whole load of lines of extra bits and pieces that we haven't had to type ourselves, which is great. Like if you wanted to just get started, like let's have a look. It's more than 2,000 lines of code just by including a template that we provide for you, which is great. So that's definitely something we can build upon. But let me just double check again. So we've looked at the full configuration, but let's just have a look at what it looks like from a visual perspective. Let me see if I can just like make this a little bit larger so we can see the whole thing. Just click this away. Yeah, I think this is, yeah. So we have the whole thing here. We've got our builds, phase, test stage, got Dast, we've got our review apps and everything that's like connected to them. So yeah, that's great. So you can see exactly what the pipeline is going to look like. So rather than looking at like more than 2,000 lines of code, you can see what the relationship between each of these steps are. And then if we had any sort of additional things that we mistyped or something like that, there's a validate option here where you can make sure that it gets validated. So it looks like everything is completed successfully. So it means that if we run this pipeline, it will work. So you should have seen all of these bits and pieces. So you can see which of the parameters, what the values are. This is just a simulation. It's not actually run the pipeline itself so far because we're still editing. So once we've completed our editing, let me have a look. We want to probably commit our changes before running the pipeline. So for now, only the pipeline configuration we need is defined in a single template that is included, but we understand that 99% of the time, this template is not going to be what you need to be production ready. That's why we suggest using it as a base template to get started and using the extends, overrides, or rules functionality of GitLab CI/CD to get the pipeline where it needs to be. So let me just double check again that we are on the auto DevOps merge request branch rather than main. And then what we want to do next is commit our changes. So once we've committed our changes, it will immediately kick off a pipeline, and then we can have a look at what that looks like. So initially, we saw that our pipeline only has 2 steps, and now it should have a whole load of more steps. So let me just commit. So DevOps templates. Okay, commit changes. So now if we go to pipelines, we can see that something has been kicked off. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So yeah, so we have a build step, a bunch of tests, and our Dast. So these are the three stages we've specified in our YAML file, and that is now going to do its thing. So let's have a look at what it's. Once on the pipeline view, we can view that the jobs are running. It's not the same amount of jobs we saw, but that is fine. We're not run based on rules to find them specifically. Yeah, okay. So some of them have not actually been run because we're not meeting the conditions, which is fine. So let's go make sure that this runs. We can probably have a little bit of a break. So if you haven't caught up so far, we'll have like a couple of minutes until this is done. And then once this is done, we can go in and carry on with the last step. All right, I'll give it a couple more minutes. Actually, it's going a little bit faster than I thought it would, so that's great. How is everybody actually getting on? Is everybody at the same spot as I am? Can you just put like a thumbs up in the chat if you are. Otherwise, my team is obviously here to help. But I think as we are still waiting for the last bits and pieces to complete, yeah, cool. All right. So what we're doing at the moment is trying to see that there are 2 jobs that have failed, which is fine. That's allowed. Like you are allowed to have failing jobs, but let's have a look at what's going on inside of those. So click into one of them that has a fail, failed code. And I think what we want to do is click into either the code into the code job. Notice that there's plenty of logs you can parse through if you wanted to. So yeah, so if you wanted to have like an actual idea as to why something has failed, it's you can go through all of this if you wanted to, but let's just click for good time's sake. So we're going to click root cause analysis. And make the screen a little bit smaller again because now I don't see things. All right, so let's generate something. So what's going on? The job failed because the else if go command failed with the error message. The error indicates that the command could not find a mod file in the project directory. This is an example fix. Wow, that's pretty cool. So root cause analysis is also a duo chats functionality or capability. So it will help you analyze what is wrong with something, which is pretty useful. And it saves you a lot of time. Okay, so after reading the generated prompt, share in the chat why you now feel like you're automatic. Well, we just discussed that. Ourselves amongst ourselves. Next, we want to use the left-hand navigation to click through code, merge request, and click into our existing merge request. All right. So that's pretty much done. So this is our merge request. In a merge request, you can also see our pipeline. So the widget should give you an indication of where what's going on. So as mentioned before, like you can still have your pipeline pass with warnings. So it's still going through a bit of something else. But yeah, so theoretically, all of the information that we found in our pipeline, you can get from your merge request as well, which is pretty great because if you're still working on your code, it's useful to have everything in one place. So with that, I think that sort of concludes that portion of the workshop. So let's go into the next one. But before we do, we have another little poll. If somebody from my fabulous team can hit go on that one. And this question is about your DevOps journey. We are obviously wanting to understand a bit more about who we have in front of us, and we would love to know where you and your company are on your DevOps journey. Are you just starting out? Are you in the discovery phase, like trying to figure out what DevOps is and how it can be useful for you? Next option is you're already using continuous integration, which is already, like a good next step. And then either you're doing some shift left testing on a per commit basis. You're already using CI, CD, so continuous delivery, or you're maximizing everything with capturing and analyzing your door metrics or some additional metrics to make sure that you continuously get your feedback. That's kind of the options here. No, you can you don't have to do anything beyond what we've done in the section. So if the pipeline is okay as it is, and we're just going back into the security bits. So I think we're still having a few more people answering the poll question. But as soon as we are done with that, we can go into the next section of the workshop. So we're going to be talking a bit more about enhancing everything with security and compliance, and we will probably be fixing our pipelines in the next section. So don't worry about everything. We can all just sit tight and let's focus on the next portion. Okay, so I think we are good with the poll. Okay, right. So let's talk about security and compliance. So how you can enhance your workflows with security and compliance. So what we've done so far, we've just done our first deployment with CI/CD. We've done some project management. We had a little introduction and had some lab setup. And this is probably one of the more important parts of the whole DevSecOps lifecycle. So security and compliance is only, security is only as good as your processes. And as if have been in the DevOps space for a while, then you know that it's a people, process, and technology in that particular order. So if you are having a technology that does stuff, but your processes are not in the right place, then yeah, you can have some potential issues or incidents, right? So let me just have a click. Where's my, so this is an interesting slide. So, why should you care about security and compliance? And it's all about the cost of remediation. Now, sometimes you don't really think about what remediation costs, or if you have a vulnerability, like the more important things you think about is probably, the high profile incidents like the whole log4j thing, or anything else that's just like in the news. You do not want to be in the news, right? As most organizations I speak to don't want to be in the news because of a breach or in sort of incident or something like that. And in a traditional environment, I've seen developers just throw code over to the next portion. It's like, okay, it's next person's responsibility to deploy this. And then once it did find some vulnerabilities, it's very likely that security goes like, well, no, this is not right. We have to put this back into the front of the queue, or like in the back of the queue. And then hopefully a bunch of sprints or iterations later, that maybe the same person that looked at that code before, works on it again. And the problem with this is that it takes so long. It can take up to like weeks before it gets looked at again, which means that you're not deploying anything or not deploying the feature that you're looking into. So you're not going as fast as you should in your innovation. and it just takes a lot of time to actually fix things. So how we believe, like, the shift left, what's the word? The shift left methodology, i.e. testing before you push into production and presenting the information in a meaningful way in front of the developers while they're still developing code before things get pushed into production, that saves so much time and effort and money that you'd otherwise be spending on other things. Like, you don't want to make your developers worry about things once they've already finished something, right? So in this light, like, if this the information that you're seeing over here, you don't want to be fixing bugs in production theoretically. So this is kind of, if you want to have the reports that this is based on, I'm sure some of my colleagues will be able, my team members will be able to share the reports of this, but it can get a bit costly. You don't want to spend this money if you don't have to, right? You can spend it on other things like more people or larger environments or something like that. So, it's expensive. You don't want to spend this money, right? So if we go into the some of the things that you can do with GitLab to remediate this, like we have a whole suite of security and compliance functionalities that can help you be compliant, stay compliant, putting guardrails in place for your engineers and your developers to make sure that they get to the right thing without having to ask anyone, not having over exaggerated approval processes, because people can get busy, right? So let me just have a quick brief scan through these things. So obviously your scans are the heart of everything, and you can have pre-build scanning and post-build scanning. So for example, your secret detection, your static application security tests, all that kind of stuff, your ISC scanning, dependency scans, license compliance. Pre-build, that's great. That's definitely something that you should all be doing. Same with like the container scans afterwards, your, more the post-build stuff. So your dynamic application security test, all that kind of stuff on the right-hand side. Also definitely need to do all of these things. But the overarching capabilities that we have here are kind of the glue that makes sure that you could actually do something with them. Because even if you do scan for loads of different things, unless you have the right processes in place to actually mitigate them or do something with them, then there's still risk, right? So the things you can do with GitLab, there's the vulnerability management. That's probably the most important, or the most, like the most useful in this case. Dependency management is, for example, specifically important nowadays with software bill of materials that's being requested by a lot of government bodies and a lot more, like, if you're in like a regulated industry, there's a lot more interesting things that you need to be doing with SBOMs and licenses, license approvals, a whole bunch of different things. So I might go into a bit, I talk about this stuff every day, right, as part of my job. So I can get very excited about this. And if you want to know more about this, we can definitely have a chat afterwards. But good to know is that as the like the GitLab DevSecOps one platform approach doesn't mean that you only have to use GitLab things. You can also include other things, but still leverage the GitLab functionality to enforce your policies, to make sure you still have all of these capabilities in place. All right, so before I talk more about this kind of stuff, let's go into the next slide. So security is one thing, the scans are one thing, but then obviously the next step there is compliance. So GitLab can help you ensure compliance with a multitude of different regulations and standards, but also help you future-proof against changes or any updates that may require some more robust protections as regulations evolve. So for example, one of my fellow GitLab team members and federal field CTO, Joel Kruzwick, has said that one of the things he's hearing most is how GitLab is helping users automate their compliance so they can avoid manual work and focus on the real work of innovation. So by securing your software properly, you can achieve that. So he also mentioned that according to an article he read about the US Navy, the focus on compliance has caused them to even have further insecure systems, which could concern anyone who has a compliance focus, who doesn't have any automation in place. So within GitLab, you can do this by the use of compliance pipelines and compliance frameworks. And I think we'll be setting it up shortly as well. So there's loads of different things you can do to make sure that you can still be compliant with the regulations in your industry. So what are the benefits then by using GitLab compliance and GitLab security functionality? You really are leveraging the one DevSecOps approach, right? So we play well with others. You can enable your developers to follow best security practices without actually having to look at their fingers the whole time. Maintaining compliance is made easy by applying the same features to multiple projects at the same time, like the compliance frameworks. You can enforce necessary scans to be run before code gets pushed into production, either by just enabling the templates or by using, for example, child pipelines in your CI/CD. And you can also force the same policies on third-party scans. So if for whatever reason you have multiple third-party scanners, you can still include those into your code base, into GitLab, and you can still have GitLab enforce policy based on external parties scan results as well. Right, a lot of text, a lot of the talking, but it's with that it's time to go into the last section of the actual hands-on workshop portion. So what are we going to do? So we are in the third stage of our workshop instructions. So we'll be merging request our security results, doing some stuff with our merge request security results. It's a large one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 10 minutes again. So probably 1:45, I'll be checking in and I'll be doing all of these steps in front of you while we go. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to go through some of it yourself, and then I'll be doing it on screen with you in 10 minutes time. Just a quick note before I am going to follow along with you. I'm getting some notifications that some people are still working from, we haven't removed the fork relationship in their fork. So I just see that I've been added as a reviewer somewhere. But to ensure you don't have to wait for other people from GitLab to complete your course, please make sure you remove the fork relationship by going to settings. Let me just show that real quick. So here in settings, in general, scroll all the way down and then to advanced, expand, and then you should have the option to remove the fork relationship in this section. Mine's already removed, so it won't be here. But just make sure that you have removed your fork relationship before you go on. And I'll give you a couple more minutes before I carry on and show. You can follow along with me if you haven't been able to complete the next steps. So 5 more minutes. Give it 5 more minutes. All right, I think it's time to start doing the follow along. So again, if I try to speak as slow as I can, I normally speak very, very fast. So if you've ever met me in person or have been on a call with me, when I get excited about things, I go at the speed of light almost. So I'm trying my best to make sure I speak very slowly and eloquently so everybody can hear me properly. In fact, there's also the option of closed captions. So usually they are pretty good. If English isn't your first language, like it isn't for me, closed captions is quite useful. So you can enable those by selecting the captions in the bottom. That was a huge, a different thing to say. But with that, I hope everybody has managed to get through some of it. But now is the time that I'm going to go through it with you. So let me just put everything to the side. What we're doing is we are in a merge request. So I appreciate it might not be super clear, but it did say right below the approval section, we can see some of the templates, some of the generated reports. So those will be in the merge request. The merge request is the heart of everything that we do within GitLab. And this portion over here, so these blocks over here, that is what we call the merge request widget. So the merge request widget will give you all the information you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're going to be pushing into production is accurate. And according to it's compliance, it's not got any issues and all that kind of stuff. So you can see if pipelines have passed. And this is the approval section that we were talking about in the course section. So right below the approval section, we can see that the code quality, license compliance, and security scanning reports are available. Above the approval section, we have our pipeline widget. So you can see that there's been still got to be 2 pipeline stages that have been passed with warnings. But this is kind of what we want to look at right now. So if we go back to the text here, right below the approval section, we can see that the code quality, license compliance, and security scanning templates we included have generated full security reports unique to this particular branch for us to view. So these reports are generated every time you commit. So we always know if you have something, if you potentially have introduced something disastrous before we go into production. So what does that then look like? So every time we commit something to this particular branch, it will run a pipeline again, it will run all of the tests again, and you can see if your code is good before you merge anything. Just to go ahead and look at the things that we just put in. So, you know, that what we just did in the previous section is the pipeline editor, go into the right branch. So these are the templates that we are talking about. So all of these here, the code quality, the browser performance, container scanning, SAS, all that kind of stuff, all of the reports that you see in your merge request widgets, these are the templates that it's pulled from. So just to reiterate where we are. So let's go back to the merge request. There we go. So, and as it said over here, we looked at the reports, we looked at where the reports are. So every time you commit something, it will create a delta. So it will only review it based on what is already in production. So every time you commit something, it will only show you what new things you've introduced. So in this case, the security scanner has detected at least 26 potential new vulnerabilities based on just what we did today. So let's go ahead and go and have a look at things. So we can see here, click here, view all pipeline findings. You can also look at the full report somewhere else in the platform. So we can go to this vulnerability report to see everything, but this is particularly only for what we're doing in this merge request on this branch in our commits. So you can see, let's have a look. Click on any of the critical ones. So let's click on the top one. So it will give you a pop-up. And again, I'm still on the merge request. You know, it says it needs triage, the description. You see where the project is, which project it is, what the severity is, the identifier. So if you wanted to see the official identifying information, we can go in there and click that. Which image it uses, what namespace it is, some additional links, some evidence, and then a potential solution. So that's, pretty useful. Let's have a look. Okay, so in this case, like normally you wouldn't merge something in with this many critical vulnerabilities. What you would usually do is say like, okay, well, we are going to create a new issue and we're going to either just do something about this ourselves, once we're still writing some code, or we can either like tag our security people, create a new issue and put that at the back of the queue. But theoretically, we can say, okay, well, this is an accepted risk, or we've already remediated some of these vulnerabilities. But what we're going to do is just follow the steps here. So we have expand the report, looked at the results, looked at some of the critical and high vulnerabilities. From this view, we can see exactly where it worked. Oh yeah, so what we can do is we can click the comment icon, state we checked it out, we're not worried. Yeah, okay, so that's what the step that I missed. We can say, okay, you know what, I've reviewed this comment button. So reviewed won't be an issue as it's internal or something like that. Add comment and dismiss, and then you can go through that if you wanted to. So this this is just the basics workshop. If you wanted to do more with security, and if you are a security professional, wanted to have more controls over things, we definitely have different talks and different sessions available to help you get a bit more up to snuff with this specifically. But if you wanted to specifically for what we're doing today, is you can just dismiss all of them if you wanted to, or just go ahead and merge as listed in our session over here. So we are going to click merge, and once we merge, we can use in the left hand. Yeah, we can just like check the pipeline out. That's what we want to do. Okay, so click merge. Changes are being shipped, and it should be kicking off a new pipeline. Let's have a look at what that does. Yeah, so a new pipeline has been kicked off. We can look at the progress here. Yeah, so it's just doing some things, and let's have a look at the next one. So once merged, use the left-hand navigation menu to click through CI/CD pipelines and click into the most recently kicked off pipeline at this point. Okay, so all right, so once we have our main pipeline completed, our reports and security reports will only be generated if you run a pipeline against main. So, okay, yeah, so as I mentioned before, we are going to go into the security dashboard, so the vulnerability report. So this report is what's happening against main. I haven't. So do I have something ready? Ted, do you have the merged thing available so we can quickly show a report? Because I can go into a different group of my own, but that won't be specific to our session today.
No, not at the moment, unfortunately.
Nah, that's fine. I'll go into my own group. No problemo. Okay, so let me just duplicate this before I forget where we are. Okay, so I'm going to step out of it a little bit because that makes it a bit, where are we? Yeah, so I've got a real world example group. Usually I do my demos from this place. So the section over here says use the left-hand navigation menu to click to security dashboard, and we'll bring a dashboard view of all the vulnerabilities and accounts over time. So we're gonna go into some of this. So in the secure section over here, we have our security dashboard, the vulnerability report, dependency list, et cetera, et cetera. So the vulnerability report is a list of all of the bits and pieces that is that's been found in the actual source code of this project and this repository. Now in the merge request widget, so whenever you create a branch, it will kick off a pipeline and it will test, or it will scan against this. So we'll only show you the difference between this in the vulnerability report of the whole project and what's being potentially newly introduced. So let me just have a quick show of this one. It is that one. Doesn't have anything. Let me select a different one then. I swear I had something somewhere. This is happening live, folks. Come on, give me something. There we are. Okay, so what I quickly wanted to show you is one of the AI functionalities that I really like. So I promise we'll we'll get finished in time. But one of the things that I like about one of the things in our vast AI capabilities is the explain this vulnerability. So let's say I'm fairly certain you should also be able to try this out for the next 2 days. But for example, this particular vulnerability, whenever you see a little Tanuki sign with a button, that generally means that it's a Duo functionality. But what it does, it will give you more information on what the vulnerability is, how to fix it, where you can find it, you know, what the examples are, what the impact is, and stuff like that. Which, as just little old me, who is not a security professional or not a security expert and has no you know, I mean, I have a lot of friends in that space, but like, if you tell me like, hey, this is a vulnerability, then I would still need some information. And you can guarantee that a lot of developers that are just doing, you know, like writing some code and like working on the application and trying to get stuff shipped as fast as possible, they probably also won't know what's happening. So having the opportunity to A, figure out what's going on right when you're writing some code, and B, also have AI explain this vulnerability, show you what the impact is and potentially give you a fix, you know, that will set you off for success. That's, you know, going off to the races. Anyway, so that's kind of the thing that I wanted to show you, and I'm happy I could do this. The other thing that I wanted to show you is the security dashboard. So I'm not sure if it's going to give you anything useful here, but the security, yeah, let's go back to the other project. Sorry, people, I'm going a bit back and forth to things, but this is not something part of the workshop. I just wanted to show you the actual security dashboard so you have a bit of an idea of what that looks like. Does this work? Yeah, okay. So this is the security dashboard. This might be useful for some of the security folks on the call, but you know, there's a list of vulnerabilities over time, how it's been handled, what kind of security status some projects have. Again, like this is just my demo group, so it won't have any meaningful information. But for any large organization that is using some of this functionality and some of the security functionality, this is pretty useful. You know, you want to make sure that it is as low as possible. All right, let's go back to the rest of the content. Where are we? Okay, so we have done the dashboard view so far. We can track our work and as we secure our project. The dashboard does take a long time to collect stuff. And again, like, you know, like yours won't have any information, but the one that I showed you will have a little bit more. So now we've already seen how you can actually show vulnerabilities in your pipeline view. We are now able to use a left-hand navigation menu to go through the vulnerability report to check the report of our project. This is, yeah, this is my test group. I'm just double checking if I'm in the right group now. So if we go to the vulnerability report ourselves, you see this is the list of all the stuff that it's found in the project. So you can either say all statuses, and we have also, I think, some other things that you can dismiss with, but not everybody should have access to this particular list. So only people that actually have the opportunity to do something with it, you can set permissions to make sure this is viewable for the right people. But again, like you can go into it, see exactly what's going on. And where are we? For example, if we go into the SAST ones again, yeah, it will have the explain vulnerability. I should have just waited and just trusted the process. But yeah, you can look at the explaining vulnerability yourself as well. You can also show what prompt it sends to Duo, which is pretty cool. Oh, this is exactly what we're doing. Sorry, folks, I'm just having a bit of a moment here. Okay, so we are looking for the possible SQL injection. That's exactly where we are. So that's, I'm actually doing things before I read. So click the severity to low in the tool to SAST. We want to click into the vulnerability and then try it out for an explanation on what a SQL injection risk is and why our application is vulnerable using the explain this vulnerability functionality. All right, so we want to do that on this one. So click on the button here, just click the other one away. We want to know what's happening within this project. So it's generating some bits. Okay, so breakman warning code 0. The vulnerability occurs when user input is directly concatenated into a SQL query without proper sanitization. This allows an attacker to inject malicious SQL statements into the query, potentially leading to unauthorized access to data, modification of data, and even execution of arbitrary commands. And you don't want that. You don't want your database server to have this kind of, access. So at the end of the report, check out the fixed code section and see that we can add, if we add a sanitized SQL ID around our ID value, we will be protected from most attacks. So we will use this later. If we are curious of what, we saw this already. I showed you what to do when you want to see the prompt that has been sent to Duo to generate the suggestion. And if we wanted to have more context about the specific function above, we can click the link file. Yeah, okay, so the linked file, did I have a linked file somewhere? I'm not seeing it now. All right, let's read this again really slowly. If you're curious what triggered this response, by clicking show prompt to see the full prompt sent to GitLab Duo, we've done that. What if we wanted to have more context about the specific function above? Before we went to make and made a code change. Let's click the linked file location section to be brought to our db.rb file. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, here it is. Okay, click that one. Sorry. All right, so this is the actual file that the problem is happening at. Let me just have a little look. Okay, so line 42, leaderboard where first player ID, line 42. Okay, it's actually already highlighted it. So this is apparently our faulty line of code. And are we going to change that? I'm assuming we are. Once in the file, locate the line and highlight the whole get specific function. You should then see a small question mark to the left of the code. That will be here. All right, and now it's being explained by Duo again. The selected text is not code. I'm afraid this is not working. This is still an experimental phase, so that is fine. I think they changed something about that recently. You should send okay. You should then see a small question mark. We've clicked it on the right-hand side. There will now be a small pop-up to explain what the highlighted code does in natural language. Maybe we should try it in different sections, see if that happens. All right, let's see what that does. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, so that actually does give some information. So that is definitely not broken. All right. Maybe do that. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, so the code is called a get specific that takes an ID as an argument. It returns the first row in the leaderboard table where the player column is equal to the ID that was passed in. The where clause is used to filter the rows in the table, and the first method is used to return the first row that matches the filter. Sounds about right. Okay, that is fine. So do we do anything with that? I don't think we do that now, do we? Actually, no, I don't think we do. Okay, so let's go to the dependency list. Run through the vulnerability report, and next up is our dependency list. Dependency list is, well, a list of our dependencies used, so a software bill of materials, and this is based on any successful pipeline scan. So it will go through it, it will read all of the dependencies used, and it will just present this to you in a bit easier to read format. So you can export this and you can send this to the right people, because a lot of people in in the security side of things, as I mentioned before, something that's come into effect like a month ago, I think like in the early December, was the European Cyber Resilience Act. I'm not sure how many people from Europe are on this call. I'm assuming some of you will be, but the European Cyber Resilience Act is outlining that an SBOM should be available, or people should know, if you're using software in your organization, you should know what runs in your software. Same with like the executive order that's been mandated in the US, that an SBOM has to be part of your, it has to, have to be able to provide one if your company is software based or using software. But yeah, so this is a list of dependencies that you have. There's a whole bunch of really funky stuff that is going to happen with it as well. So there will be SBOM ingestion from other places, stuff like that. I saw a hand go up, but if you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A section in Zoom, and some of the team will be able to answer a question for you. Where are we? Okay, so we now are in, we're still in step 3, review and download the SBOM report. So using the left-hand navigation, we are in the dependency list. Click through the pages and notice that the components are all directly included in your application. And now we want to export these findings. We use build pipelines, okay. To export these findings. Yeah, okay. So we go in, so looking through all of these, we can see what's happening with them, where they are, what the location is. We can sort by component name, for example, see where they are, what the licenses are. And also, if you wanted to, for example, block or like put a policy in place that that requires people to discourage the use of a certain license, you can put that in place as well. So, for example, if you don't want to use, if you want, well, I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but if you didn't want people in your organization to use this license, you can use a policy to block usage of that before something gets pushed. Okay. Click export. Are we in the same thing? Right, so click view a bit. Next to export these findings, we will use the left-hand navigation menu to click through build and then pipelines, build and then pipelines. And then the most recent pipeline is now finished. Click it. Next, click the download icon next to the pipeline listing and then click the container scanning. Where are we? Jobs. No jobs here. Pipeline.
I believe it's still from the pipeline view or here.
What? Oh, yeah, I'm in the pipeline view and then container scanning. No job artifacts. Am I missing something?
Should be. It's meant to be. The wording could have been a little better. If you go back to the main pipeline view, like outside of just this individual pipeline, and then the download icon.
Oh, there. Okay, yeah, cool. So, and we wanted this this one, that one. All right. So sorry about that. Very collaborative over here. Okay, so we've done that now. Click download icon. We've done that. Click download SBOM report into CycloneDX format. Okay, so as I'm not sharing my entire screen, I do have the file in my in my downloads folder now, and I'm assuming you will have as well. I don't think we're actually opening them up if we wanted to. I mean, you can if you wanted to, but I don't think we're doing that in the session today. So we've downloaded it, and that is fine. All right, so the last step before we are done with our hands-on portion. So we want to go to the license compliance portion of our secure section. Where are we here? Okay, we're going to secure and then license compliance. All right, so I was actually again speaking for my turn. So these are the licenses that are used in our project. And let's say we wanted to disallow use of this license. So what we can do is, well, it's exactly what I just said. We're going to policies And you want a scan result policy. So click on new policy and do, instead of, can select the scan execution policy, but we want a scan result policy. And then, did I now select the right one? Yes, it is. New scan result policy form that appears, provide the following information. Want to include a name, want to have a status as enabled, and then some rules. I'm just gonna have another portion open here, so I'm just gonna copy that in, but this is where we are, and this is what I'm trying to do now. So in the policy editor, we're gonna say deny MIT license, and policy status will be enabled, and then the rules would be if license scan in an open merge request targeting is all the same. Status is newly detected and pre-existing, select all. And then license is matching the MIT license. And then configure everything else, I think is going to be the same. Merge a new. Let me just read this again before I do something else. Merge the new merge request into this existing security policy project. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to merge this. Configure with a merge request. Oh yeah, okay. So just saying individual user, I'm just going to say myself. But we can also say security. Oh, it's not on here. Now I've got in my group, I have a bunch of security people that I can select as potential approver. But yeah, you can say either from an individual user, from a group. So if you have a security group in your organization, you can say if something has been found or something has been violated, then the security people are going to get a notification for approval. All right. I'm not sure if I'm doing this into the right branch, actually. I'm not doing this into... Okay, so it says, Logan, I'm not sure if this is just me being silly now, but it says here, merge the new merge request into the existing security policy project. But did we just create one? Did I forget? Did I just make something that's not correct, or is it just something that goes automatically?
No, if you
It will go automatically.
Yeah, okay, so right. Fine.
if you create a policy that creates a merge request.
I created a policy and then now it's just a domain. But should that be, yeah, okay, fine.
See, like now, because the merge request was created, a new security policy project. If you look at your
Oh, right,
breadcrumbs
okay,
at top.
Okay, got it. Sorry. I have done this on many occasions, but sometimes it's just then you read things and then you expect something to happen and then something is just moved somewhere else. I guess that's I assign it to GitLab releases new stuff every month. Sometimes it just things gets moved. But yeah, so now it's already automatically indeed created a security policy project, which is great. Has it now been merged? Something's happening. So look. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's check. This is now policy will be on a different group, different project. That one. Look at policies now. We should have. Okay, so it hasn't been merged yet. Okay, let's have a look. How's everybody else doing so far? I think we've got like 40 minutes left while we finish this off, or I'm trying to struggle through this, this portion. Sorry about that. There we go. Need to merge it first. It's very easy to forget a button somewhere, is my experience. All right, so that's now sorted, I think. So if we now go back to our original project, we should have our policy show up here. Correct. Okay, so now if we go back to our merge request, you should see merged. Okay, we don't have any merge requests, but if you now would have a new merge request, you would see approvals show up as well. Okay, let me just go back to here. Okay, so we've done the merge request, we've got the policy, we've created a policy. If we were to run a new pipeline for a merge request, a new approval rule based on this license compliance policy will be added to prevent any software using the MIT license from being merged. Yes. Okay, so as I said, like whenever you would do a new merge request, you would now have a problem because it will find pretty much like 30 of these licenses being included in this project. So let's now have a look at the license compliance tab. Yeah, so now you see here that there's a policy violation. So this whatever we have here would now not be allowed. All right, so I think that is it for the hands-on portion. I hope everybody has been able to get through that as well. Just if everybody can give me a thumbs up if you have. If you haven't, that is also fine, but we've got 48 hours to complete this. We will send you the slides and some more information on how to redeem everything after the session has completed. But lastly, if you wanted to transfer this project into your own group after it's done, this is what you would do next. So please only do this when you're ready. You know, if you've done some work on this and you wanted to keep your progress in your own group, even if you don't have Ultimate and all that kind of stuff, you can still have the information or any projects. So that's only if you wanted to. You can use it to review it later if you wanted. So you have 48 hours to still use the group that we provided for you, but if you've done playing around with it, then you can use this to transfer it. As I said, only transfer when you are actually done. As I mentioned, you will lose some of the capabilities that we provide for you. If you're interested in how to, you know, if you want to find the content instructions, there will be another portion in the courses transfer project. So that will be going into courses and then transfer project. This is the information on how to do this. I won't go through it now because I'm still working on it. But if you wanted to do that, you can follow those instructions there. So yeah, in conclusion, you know, we've gone through a whole load of things today. Like Tanuki Racing has been on full form. We've given you a small introduction to GitLab. We've showed you really briefly how to use project management capabilities within GitLab. Really a flyby overview of your CI/CD and a flyby overview of security and compliance. Now, obviously, there is a lot more you can do with GitLab. GitLab is just, you know, we've shown you like such a small portion, you know, to support you on your DevSecOps journey. Even just to get you interested, or if you haven't seen this before already, like there's so much you can do with this. It's not just source control management. It's not just small portions. It's the DevSecOps approach, like not having to context switch, have everybody in the same platform is just super useful. And will help you getting to, you know, to accelerate your digital transformation journey even quicker. So some of the things over here, you know, there are some independent analytics firms that have done some reports and some information, or some reports and bits and pieces. If you wanted to have a copy of that, I'm sure we can provide them to you. But basically, it's just, you know, you can increase your improve your cycle time, which would then lead to revenue acceleration. You can create a better user experience for your developers, you know, which helps with the productivity if you don't have any silos. You can reduce the amount of tools you use and therefore also the tool integrations that need to be implemented and maintained, which significantly reduces the cost of the total operation. You know, and with less additional costs, or less additional tools, there's also less vendors to deal with, and therefore also you know, as I said, you will be able to save a lot of money. I have heard this story, like when I just started there, apparently, if you wanted to, you can replace up to 140 different point solutions. I'm not sure exactly which customer this was, but there's so much in GitLab. There's, as I said, we release on a monthly cadence. We have so many more information or functionality and capability released every month. We really want to help you become successful. So that's kind of the thing. If you wanted to speak to us more about it, feel free to pop us a message on either send us an email or reply to the information that is being sent to you later. Just as a as a sort of happy attestation, these companies on your screen here is already happy customers. We've got a whole load of really interesting customers across the globe. If you're, as I said, interested in having a conversation about enterprise solutions, please let us know after the session. So I believe now it's time for our live Q&A, and I will hand over to Manuel. Manu, if there's any questions, Manu is going to help you answer them live.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Manu. I'm a senior support engineer at GitLab. I've been here for a bit over 2 years by now. So I've come across a fair number of questions. Let's see if you have any new ones I've not heard before.
If there aren't any questions, then that's also fine.
Yep.
And just for context, best place to submit the questions is still the QA Zoom space.
Manu has already been super helpful in answering everybody's questions while Ted and myself have been presenting. So
Hopefully helpful.
I mean, I haven't seen any complaints, so that usually is a good
fair
sign.
Yep.
I mean, if there's no questions, I mean, people are also free to take another couple minutes and yeah.
I mean, it is a lot to take in. Oh, okay, there we go. Should we be running security scans as part of a release pipeline? Well, I would say it depends. So it's usually the first part of a response. It will always depend a little bit on your individual setup. It can make sense, of course, to do it as part of the release pipeline, maybe as a safeguard, in the sense that you actually then cancel and fail the pipeline and not actually do the release, not actually deploy. You might also want to do it differently and have it as a part of your not a release pipeline, but like the individual branch pipelines, and ensure that nothing ever fails the security scans then. And that way you already know once you merge something, it already failed, it already, sorry, passed the security scan part, and you don't need to scan it again for the release pipeline. Depending on your requirements, you might still want to do it in both scenarios even. It's, yeah, as I mentioned, depends. I do think it makes sense as part of the release pipeline. That way you don't have to bother with it during development, right? Because it can take a fair amount of time. But that's kind of the beauty of CI/CD, right? You can mix and match. You can pick maybe a specific job that's not taking that much time. You want to run that in every branch pipeline, and then do a final check for the really important stuff only in the release pipeline. Yeah. I hope that answers the question somewhat. Let's see, what else do we have? Are the basis CI/CD pipelines? I'm not sure I understand that question. Is there a way to give certain users read-only permissions to a repository without having to use up seats in GitLab Premium? I think that is now possible. I do remember that for quite a while that was only possible in Ultimate, but if I remember correctly, we recently changed the licensing to have that available in Premium as well. Maybe someone else can confirm that.
Unless it's changed in the last release, then I don't think that's changed. Let me just double check. But as far as I'm aware, guest users are free in Ultimate. Let me just double check.
I do remember there was some change. I'm not sure if free guest users is what came to Premium. Maybe you only have the option to have non-developer accounts at a lower price in Premium. There was something along those lines, because I distinctly remember So for context, my journey to GitLab was that I was a GitLab administrator in my old job first. And I remember back at that job, we had premium license, and I was basically hoping for the same thing. I would like to get everyone in my company into GitLab, but we couldn't quite justify that at the price points of the time then. And I remember being quite happy that we now offer a way for premium customers to also bring in more of the company into, because as Dominic explained, right, like the beauty of GitLab is that it's everything in there. Like you can do everything in there, and that works best if the whole company has access. So there definitely is some way to do this in premium. I remember being happy about it. I'm not quite sure what the exact circumstances are, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
All right.
as far as I'm aware, it's the guest users in Ultimate are free of charge. There are definitely within Ultimate there's also custom roles possible. But for example, I think the thing that has been a recent thing is we have introduced a separate Jira or like plan capability license type.
Yeah,
So
I think that's what I'm referring to.
yeah, so if there is, for example, if you have well, there's something about Jira being phased out or something. I'm not exactly sure what the thing was, but recently we've started offering a smaller license, read only, or like a non-developer type of license where for example, if you want to have your non-developer team still have access to all of the plan capabilities, so all of the project management stuff, issues, and portfolio management, there'll be a separate non-developer type of license you can get, and they're cheaper. So I hope that answers the question. I think it does.
Thank you. All right. Next was, I'm aware that Duo Chat is only available to Ultimate users. When will Duo Chat be available for premium users? If we can speak to that kind of product decisions.
No, it's not quite true. So sorry, I'm sorry to
go
just
ahead.
like jump in.
We want the best answers.
So GitLab Duo Chat is at the moment all of our AI capabilities are at the moment available for SaaS first, and then we're rolling that out for self-managed. Now, GitLab Duo Chat has been G8, so you can use that as a like you can purchase a separate license that's regardless of which regardless of your subscription type. So if you want to use GitLab Duo Chat, you have to buy the GitLab Duo Pro bundle, and that includes GitLab Duo Chat. So that will be a separate license cost. I believe that information should be somewhere. I think the code suggestions is definitely, no, it's code suggestions that are on GA. Duo Chat's still coming. So it's I will find the information here. GitLab, is it Duo? That'll be this one. All the information that is current is over here. But yeah, like if it goes GA, it will be possible for, it will be available for purchase regardless of your subscription type. So you have to be either a premium or an ultimate customer, and you can buy it for a subset of users, but that's for the Duo Pro bundle, so to say. So I'm just going to give this to you here. Just keep an eye on that link that I just shared, and then that should be good.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw Logan also posted a link on the general Zoom chat about Duo Pro from our blog. That should have some more information as well. All right, let's see, what do we have next in our company? We already have some CI/CD scripts, but are on some old platform. TFS. Wow, okay, I've actually never heard of that, I think. I think the old thing for me is SVN and CVS. Is there a process in which we can import transfer those scripts to GitLab easy? We do have a fair amount of like migration tutorials. I'm not sure if we have something for TFS specifically, but there is some resources in our documentation if you want to migrate, for example, from Jenkins or migrate from, as I said, SVN projects over to Git. There is some documentation available.
I can add to this one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I see that there's a number of questions about like migrating to GitLab CI/CD in general. Duo Chat, for starters, is going to be a great resource. It should be able to somewhat translate your CI/CD over. I'm not going to claim that it's going to work, but it will at least bring the structure over. However, most of the time when I've gone through with customers and talked through, you know, we're on XYZ CI/CD tool, we want to move to GitLab. With the features that GitLab offers compared to other products, most of the time it makes sense to rewrite your pipelines because you're going to be taking advantage of things like rules, the templates we have, the components we have, etc. And that's just, there's not going to be a direct translation to Jenkins or GitHub Actions, for example. So what I often suggest is basically start, have them side by side, and then kind of piecemeal, use GitLab Duo Chat to provide a rough translation, see if it makes sense, and then just start rewriting the pipeline from scratch.
Yeah,
and that's going to apply from
Mhm.
every tool.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, not to make it into a general AI discussion, but that's what I find AI usually very useful for in general. Like, it obviously it will rarely do the entire thing for you perfectly, but it will save you so much of the initial time, right? Like all the busy work that is not the hard part, you can save, and then you can actually focus on the hard part. All right. So next up, yes, you addressed the import content. Okay, so is there Jira integration for build and deployment? I personally never worked too much with Jira. I'm not sure if build and deployment are like super specific Jira terms. There is a variety of Jira integrations, and the next question is about that as well. What's the difference between Jira integration and adding Jira as an app? There seem to be many ways of combining the tools. That is correct. There are many ways that can be fairly confusing. The reason for that is that there is quite a number of versions of Jira as well, or let's say not versions, but flavors in the sense that also GitLab has self-hosted and SaaS, right? And so you can combine GitLab and Jira in all kinds of combinations. Maybe you have GitLab.com and a self-hosted Jira, or both is self-hosted, or both is the managed service. And because what Jira offers in terms of integration APIs for our engineers, the way you have to integrate the two varies. That's the reason why we have these different ways to integrate. And also because they're using different APIs, the feature set will be different a little bit. Okay, see some more context. Build and deployment would mean that you can see which issue is in which build, or I think that for the most part should be possible. So the main thing the Jira integration usually does is that it links commits and issues to Jira. Is it called issues in Jira tickets? I'm not even sure.
Just link to the docs. It will have a bit of an overview of what kind of what the integration looks like.
There is a great feature matrix. So yeah, for the most part, you should be able to go from Jira to a build, for example.
Yeah. So I think, as far as I'm aware, you should be able to get the information both ways, but just before Stefan drops off, can you indicate examples of repos and projects that have migrated to GitLab from other CI/CD solutions? There are some example projects that you can start using in any group. Is that what you mean? Migrated from
I'm
GitLab?
wondering, so I do remember we did have a bit of a push for better documentation from migrating to GitLab CI/CD. Let me link that in the chat as well. I'm not sure if there is pairs of like before and after projects or something like that in there, but it does have a fair amount of information on how to address a migration like that. But it's an interesting idea. I'll keep that in mind and talk to the team that's managing that set of documentation. That would be helpful to have like the project before you start migrating it and then the end result.
Yeah, it's And as Logan said earlier, right? Like it's whenever you do start using GitLab more extensively than beyond just code, storing your code, you know, like it depends on what you want from your pipeline, like a piecemeal string together pipeline in Jenkins or something like that could be not particularly up to the task, or like it could include things that you might not need to include within GitLab or something like that. So it's definitely worth just having a look at what is you know, like what you want from a pipeline or what kind of things you want integrated. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can definitely speak a little bit from like experience with support tickets that we get when people are doing this kind of migration. What we do often see is questions that are basically like, okay, so how do I do XYZ in GitLab? And we sometimes are a little confused by these questions, and then it turns out they are asking about XYZ because they have been doing XYZ in Jenkins. And have like the way of thinking still very much trained onto how Jenkins works. And the way GitLab CI works, it is a little different. So you can't necessarily translate everything perfectly one-to-one, or if you do, you will end up with fairly complex solutions where you feel like, ugh, why is this so hard? But if you take a step back and wonder, okay, so what do I actually want to achieve? What is XYZ in Jenkins doing for me? And how can I achieve that in GitLab? That is often the better question to ask, rather than just how do I exactly replicate this particular thing from Jenkins. Are there any known issues with linking self-hosted Jira and self-hosted GitLab APIs currently? I'm not aware of any like major blockers that would make this impossible to do at the moment. I would also be surprised if there wasn't any known issues currently, because software is very complex and both Jira and GitLab are really big projects. I'm sure there's like some edge cases currently out there. But generally speaking, it should be working fine. That is definitely something where the team is on top of it and makes sure that this works for most people.
yeah, I think if I look at this page over here, go to the actual integration, it says that the Jira data center, Jira server is the DVCS connector that's developed and maintained by Atlassian themselves. But
Yeah.
it looks like that is being deprecated or has been deprecated and removed in 16.0. So you want to use the Jira Cloud app instead. Just like there'll be some more information there. I think that might be why it's not working. But yeah, there's definitely still like you just the GitLab for Jira Cloud. We are using that. But yeah, if that is a hard requirement, then we can definitely figure out or like come up with some you know, like try to find out what the problem is. But yeah, that could be the case. And it's always worth looking into the you know, like GitLab plan functionality. Hmm. All right.
Okay, well, maybe this one is still something we haven't really addressed. So we're in the process of migrating our Git repo to GitLab. Is there any difference between mirroring repos and import action? Not really. So setting up a repository mirror is basically doing an import, and then afterwards you also set up the mirroring. It's just doing both in one step. But if you do set up repository mirroring, initially it does the exact same thing as if you just imported the project once.
Nice. I mean, if nobody has any further questions, then yeah, we can go have some tea.
Everyone gets a quarter of an hour back.
All right. Well, in that case, thanks everybody for joining and your participation. Feel free to yeah, just keep in touch. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us afterwards. Maybe based on the email that's been sent out. As a reminder, your group will be live for another 2 days. So if you wanted to do this on your own time, you can. And yeah, thank you so much for going on the journey with us. All right, let me just stop sharing.